I'm sure you've all seen lawyer ads on TV, right? You know, call Neck, Brace, and Walker and get what you deserve today. It used to be that lawyers didn't advertise, and you know, most people don't really remember that. In fact, they were prohibited from advertising. The thought was that allowing lawyers to advertise was somehow vulgar and not consistent with the high moral standards of the legal industry. You know, attorneys were just not stupid to advertise like mere mortals. So the first time I ever saw an ad for a lawyer was actually in Southern California. In the early 1990s, I was driving down the freeway in Long Beach, and one day, basically, you know, minding my own business, and suddenly, arising out of the distance was a huge, brightly lit and outrageously fluorescent orange billboard. Now, I have to say, for all of you folks who don't get out of Alaska much, a billboard is basically, it's a commercial for drivers. And here's how it works. You're screaming down the freeway at 75 miles an hour, bumper-to-bumper traffic, and someone decides, hey, it'd be a good idea to put up something to grab your attention. Something guaranteed to take your eyes off the road. What could go wrong with that? So, anyway, I was approaching this rather large and garish billboard, and I noticed something peculiar about it. It said, "Need to escape your marriage? Call Rocky at 345-1234. This was clearly either a lawyer or a hitman. I thought, how silly of me. It's obvious, it has to be a hitman because lawyer advertising isn't allowed. I chalked it up to the growing acceptance of hitmen as low-cost alternatives to divorce. You know, those trends are always starting in California. So, later I was watching on TV and on comes one of the now classic, you know, lawyer ads. Have you been injured in an accident? Have you been denied the fortune you so richly deserve? Are you ready to do battle with your opponents until they're bankrupt? Call the professionals at Diablo, Satan, and Beelzebub. 666-6666. Or something like that. And suddenly I realized lawyers are allowed to advertise for clients. This is something new. And you know, this is something that firms in Alaska could really start taking advantage of. And it wasn't long before it hit Alaska either. And I'm sure you saw it. You know, some of the initial efforts were a little crude and, you know, low production values, like toy cars crashing into one another, looking like somebody filmed their 5-year-old playing with a Matchbox set. The other thing I noticed was they were all for these plaintiff personal injury lawyers. So it got me to thinking, how would other types of lawyers advertise? So I got to thinking, you know, you can imagine a good advertising executive would, you know, could whip up a commercial in a real hurry. For example, suppose your law firm wants to break into that bad boy market, you know, representing evil foreclosing banks, big oil companies, and ditzy former Republican governors.
You would know anything.
Yeah, you know. So, an ad for that firm might go something like this.
Oh, no.
Two Bentleys pull up to a stoplight beside one another, and the passengers of each of the cars rolls down the window to talk to another. Excuse me, would you happen to have a recommendation for a good lawyer? Why, yes. I take my corporation's business to Hammerlock & Excelsior LLP. Oh, I've heard of them. They're supposed to be very good, but are they very expensive? Oh, my good fellow, you know how it is if you have to ask. Oh, and by the way, would you happen to have some Grey Poupon? So you cut to the narrator. Hammerlock & Excelsior LLP. Legal representation so good that if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Okay, so you know, maybe that's not quite your style. So then there's the, you know, maybe you're the public radio set, you know, where you have the spots that come on that are not supposed to be ads. Remember those? So here's one that you might hear. The next segment of All Things Considered is brought to you by the collection firm. The collection firm, lawyers squeezing the last nickel from Alaskans since 1975. The collection firm, located at an undisclosed location in Midtown. So, we're off, you get the creative juices flowing, and so now you're thinking, well, maybe your firm wants to work for insurance companies who are notorious for wanting the lowest price for their attorneys. Are you an insurance company looking for a low-cost legal representation? Down here at Worthington Law, we have just what you're Take a look at this. A 1995 litigator all broke in, just $195 an hour. Or look at this, a brand new 2011 graduate. It's a 4x4, just $155 an hour. Here's a 2002 associate. Not going to make partner, a real bargain at $175 an hour. Come on down. It's where your friends are. It's where the bargains are. Worthington Law, 1950 Gamble. We'll see you here. Well, then again, maybe it isn't such a bad idea that lawyers don't advertise.
That was good.
And I also